Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about human trafficking, what human trafficking is, the different types there are, statistics on trafficking, and what our nation is doing to eradicate this horrible phenomenon. So, what is human trafficking? According to DHS.gov, human trafficking involves the use of force or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. When I first began my research, I thought that human trafficking was more sexual than anything else. I had zero clue that there were different types of trafficking. There is sex trafficking, in which women or children are abducted and forced to perform sexual acts for money. Forced labor and domestic servitude require people to work for nothing. This is seen more in different countries rather than America, but it still hurts to know that there's still slavery in the world. Around 50,000 people are trafficked into the U.S. per year, and that number only keeps rising. Traffickers exploit their victims using false promises of love, money, or a way of getting by. They appeal to their victims' needs and trick them into giving them what they want. This can include sex, marriage, organs, servitude, you name it. Most of the time, there is either a language barrier between victims and law enforcement, victims are scared of law enforcement or their abusers, or they are threatened into never finding help. Human trafficking can happen to anyone. Race, gender, nationality, nothing matters to a trafficker. HumanRights.org states from a September report in 2017 from the International Labor Organization and Walk Free Foundation that an estimated 24.9 million victims are trapped in modern-day slavery. In that number, 64% were exploited for labor, 19% were sexually exploited, and 17% were exploited in state-imposed labor. The saddest part is that people make an actual living off of the suffering of others. Traffickers earn roughly about $150 billion a year, sex trafficking being the highest with a total of $99 billion. Horace Mann once said, "Injustice alone can shake down the pillars of the skies and restore the reign of chaos and night." For a heinous act, you would think that more people would get caught. I wish that was the case. The number of prosecutions are dangerously low. In 2016, there were only 14,894 prosecutions and 9,071 convictions for trafficking globally. The biggest question now is, what are we, as a whole, doing to stop it? What is our country and other countries doing to eliminate human trafficking? Due to COVID, 2020 was a year that gave rise to human trafficking. In January 2020, Donald Trump signed an executive order that would help combat trafficking and online child exploitation. A special advisor, courtesy of Executive Order 13903, would be responsible for the work of issues related to human trafficking, from policies to interagency efforts and advisement to the Domestic Policy Council, or the DPC. Along with this, Trump signed another order, Executive Order 13923, which would establish a task force to monitor U.S. enforcement of the prohibition of imports produced wholly or in part by convict labor, forced labor, and indentured labor under penal sanctions. In the following months, they came up with other orders and plans to stop this growing issue. Along with these other orders and plans, they came up with a strategic list of objectives. 1. Investigate and prosecute traffickers and dismantle the criminal networks that perpetrate trafficking in persons. 2. Enhance victim identification and the provision of relief and services for all victims of trafficking. 3. Enhance training of stakeholders, including civil society, law enforcement, and government officials to increase identification of victims. 4. Encourage foreign governments to combat trafficking through international diplomacy and engagement. 5. Forge and strengthen partnerships and other forms of collaboration to combat trafficking in persons. 6. Fund domestic and international anti-trafficking programs focusing on prosecution, protection, and prevention. 7. Integrate anti-trafficking components into relevant government programs. 8. Promote public awareness about modern slavery. 9. Spur innovation and improve capacity to combat modern slavery through data collection and research. 10. Gather and synthesize actionable intelligence to increase the number of domestic and international trafficking prosecutions. America prohibits slavery. Americans fought and died to rid the world of its filth, and yet it's still here. It's a living, breathing thing that if we don't stop now, it will consume us all. We are not products. We are human beings.